Yeah, so welcome to another episode of Recalibrate, our monthly Zoom call with our allies around the world. So we're excited to have the men, almost 60, who are here watching it and participating with us live. But also those of you who are watching this later on YouTube, we're so thankful that you're here and you're taking this time. My name is Josh. I'm on the Zoweh team, and I'm joined tonight by our Zoweh Allies Director, Mr. Greg Sailors. And we're really excited about really the conversation that we want to dive into tonight. The last several months, we've tackled topics such as how do I start a men's ministry? What resources should I use in my men's ministry? Tonight, we really want to talk about how to keep your men engaged. Because something that I'll personally kind of dive into in a few moments is I have no problem starting. I have no problem getting excited to launch something. It is sustaining it. It is coming back 6 weeks into it, 6 months into it, right? And there's a reason why it needs to be ongoing. There's a reason why there needs to be some longevity to it, right? Not just, we've talked about this extensively, not just, getting through the book, not just meeting for this set amount of weeks and then we're done. We really want lifelong friendships. And with that comes the challenge of keeping people engaged. And so that's really where we want to kind of turn to tonight. And so, Greg, I don't know if you have any opening thoughts on that, but that's really where we want to spend some time today.
Thanks, Josh. Guys, I'm so thankful that you're here with us. I love seeing groups together on Zoom, and some of you guys by two, and so want to welcome our YouTube listeners and folks that are joining us in a myriad of different ways, Josh, here on social media and the World Wide Web. Thank you. We love you guys. Really, we do. And we're so thankful for you and all the good that God is up to in your lives. And man, what a hard subject to talk about, because, the world, as I think about us moving towards this question of how to keep men engaged, one of the things that we're inundated with, Josh, is information.
Yeah.
I mean, there is always more information. I don't know if you remember, but I gave the challenge on one of our other recalibrates to, what if we just took a break from information for a month or a whole season of your small group? What if you took a break from a resource and you made it about relationships? And so as I think about this problem about staying engaged, I mean, think about it in your own life. How do you stay engaged in your own heart for this fight, this mission that we're in, this battle that we're in? It's hard. I mean, think about daily devotionals, or, just working out. Josh and I are we're pumping up, trying to make sure we're doing that, right, Josh?
Yeah, man.
And it's so hard to just stay consistent on anything in life but work. It's all right to stay consistent on work because we have to, right? And so, Josh, I want to kick it over to you, but I want to kick it over with this question. When it comes to your family, how do you stay engaged there? I think that'd be a great place to start.
Yeah, man. So one of the first pieces of advice that I got when it came to marriage and family was not to be scared to be intentional. And somewhere along the line, I think we got lied to. We got tricked into believing that if I was intentional, then it wasn't as sexy or as romantic. But I found out pretty quickly that if I was not intentional to set date nights, then date nights didn't happen. No matter how much I desired to take my wife out, no matter how much we needed to be away, especially once kids came into the picture. If I wasn't intentional, then romance, there was no time for intimacy. And so I've kind of coined that being intentional is being intimate, because it's making time, and it's proven to her and the kids. Same thing applies with my kids. And now I've also learned that you gotta allow the plan not to go according to plan, because if you're so set on it happening the way that it's in your head all the time, and life and kids and stuff involved, it's not always going to happen that way. But man, intentionality for sure is like the number one takeaway that I can have. And I just have this personal saying. I've been involved in ministry for most of my adult life for 10 plus years. And I've lived by this. And that is My family gets the best, ministry gets the rest. And that's hard because when you think about Jesus and doing Jesus's work, right? It's easy to say yes because it's all good things, right? Every phone call is a good thing. Every opportunity to go is a good thing. But is it necessarily the best thing? How's the heart of my kids doing? How's the heart of my wife doing? What's my rhythm of rest look like? And so again, family gets the best, ministry kind of gets the rest. And then maybe even just to save face, Jesus gets the best, then the family, and then everything else gets the rest. But it's really easy to confuse that sometimes, I think, Greg. What about you, man? You've been doing this for a long time too. What's your thoughts?
I stink at it. I'll just tell you. No, sometimes I do. Other times, I don't. I think that it's easier with my wife than it is with my kids sometimes, with four boys. And I've got different walks with those boys. I've got kids that are I got teenagers, and then I've got a middle one and a little. And so I was just thinking about that today, especially with a 4-year-old. I mean, he'd rather hang out with his brothers most of the time. It feels like to me, and that's the offer of the enemy, right? That he'd just rather be with them. And so it makes it easier for me just to do something else because, well, he'd rather play with them anyway. So the intentionality, I think, is so important. And we're talking about family, but obviously this is across the board applicable to your small group. If you're only, hear what I'm saying, everybody, if you're only seeing the men in your small group on Thursday night or Tuesday night or Wednesday or Sunday, then you're misunderstanding what we are saying about redemptive brotherhood.
Good, man.
You have to be intentional about being together. Going to lunch. I mean, I had lunch yesterday with one of my brothers in my group, for example, and I'm trying my best to get around to everybody and spend time with them. A lot of you guys, I see you on the road, and if I'm coming through town, I'm like, hey, let's get together. And so, you have to be intentional about being together. So it's going to cost something to, if you're going to really be in redemptive brotherhood and love each other well, it's going to be messy. It's going to be difficult. The enemy's going to set everything he can against it. And so you're going to have to enter in. You're going to have to make hard decisions. You're going to have to get up at 5 a.m. in the morning to do breakfast with a guy, maybe, because that's the only time he can do it.
Yeah, man.
There is
a
go ahead.
There is a book. I won't necessarily fully endorse the book and the guy who wrote it, although I personally love it. But the principle of it is choosing to cheat, and his idea behind that is every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else, right?
Right.
So just what you just said, Greg, the enemy is so smart, so cunning, in that you can say yes to all the right things and still miss a heart, the heart of a man in your group, your wife's heart, your kid heart, and he will come and bring shame and guilt and judgment in that and wear you out. So the premise of that book is, hey, I'm going to look at my wife. I'm going to talk with my wife and kids, and we're going to understand that, hey, babe, the next 2 months, this season is going to be tough. It's going to require a lot of me. I'm going to have to be gone. I'm going to have to be available, blah, 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 whatever that looks like for you. But it's not going to be this way forever. And so you come to that, you're not telling her, but you're coming to that agreement. You're coming to that understanding. There's context to it. But then the important thing is make sure you're being truthful to that. That if there are times that you're not available, well, then there's plenty of times that you are available, right? And vice versa to your men. I think, Greg, that's golden, man, and you can't say yes to every call and every appointment, but you do have to say yes, right? And we do have to be intentional to make some calls and to make some appointments. But I think the thing I just felt in my heart was not letting the enemy twist that and it becoming, and let it take you out. You know what I mean? Because if you're taken out, then everybody is missing you. You know what I mean? And so that's important. And that's the tension that we face as leaders, for sure.
Yeah. And it's like we say at the weekends, if there's a sudden loss of air pressure, right, and the mask appears, who gets the mask first?
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
And
I lost him for a second, guys. Did you guys
You
lose
know,
Greg too? Oh, there he is. We lost you for a second, buddy. You said so. You put the mask on, and then what?
yeah. So you put the mask on because you have to take care of your own heart. You have to get your heart back before you're fighting for the hearts of others, right?
Yeah.
But you don't want to, in the meantime, not fight for the hearts of others, right? Or not be in relationship. And so, you put your mask on, then you put your brother's mask on. You got to be intentional about doing those things so you can continue to fight for each other.
Yeah.
And so you can have the good that God's up to in your life. Think about the word isolation for a minute, Josh. Will you look that up for me, buddy, while I talk about that for a minute, if you don't mind? And so think about this thought of isolation. We were doing, like I said, in my band of brothers, we were doing our stories recently, and there was a theme, and two of the guys that told their stories, and I know this, I've done this a lot of years, so I know what's going to happen. There's a common theme in all of our stories, and that is that at some point in our life, particularly as men, we felt like we were alone. We might even feel like that today, that we're alone. We're it's just us. It's just me. If it's going to be, finish that sentence in your head. It's up to me, right? Anybody else in with that? Thumbs up. You felt that before? I'm the only one. Oh, me and Ron Gauschko. All right, good, Ron. Just me and Ron. I mean, it's the truth, right, guys? If it's going to be, it's up to me. And I don't know about you, but I've lived a lot of my life that way. The enemy wants to isolate you. Let's talk about isolation for a minute, Josh. Tell me the definition.
Yeah. So isolated is to be far away from other places, buildings, or people, remote. And then the act of being, stepping into isolation, the process or fact of isolating or being isolated. In other words, being cut off from everybody and everything. Yeah, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing.
Yeah, Encounter, I remember right before I was going on stage to talk about brotherhood, God told me to read that definition to the crowd. And when I was looking at everybody's faces and people were connecting with that, everybody knew what I meant and had felt that. And many were feeling it at that very time. There's a few guys tonight, for example, that can't get in. They've texted me, I can't get in. I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to get in. I'm like, brother, I can't help you. I'm trying to help you.
Yeah.
What do you think the message might be to their hearts tonight? I'm going to circle back with them, but what do you think the message might be, Josh? Right? Just what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Of course. I think if it was me, my message would be, of course. Every time I tried to take an effort, make an effort, this is what happens. And that's just kind of been my personal MO on some of those things, right? Some of my story is, of course, this is what would happen.
Right. I'm nothing but a fill in the blank, right?
Yeah, I'm not needed, or this is not meant to be. Yeah, right.
Exactly. Right. Nobody cares about me. Nobody's looking out for me. I'm trying to even be on this community thing that Greg keeps talking about and texting me about, but he won't even let me on, And so, I think about the cunningness of the enemy and what he's trying to do and how he still kills and destroys. I think about keeping men engaged. Well, they're already so much set against them, Josh, because they think they're isolated and they feel isolated, and maybe they are isolated.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's a very hard thing. So, another event might not be the answer. Another men's meeting or doing a new resource might not be the answer. Them getting their heart back, I know, is the answer. And you putting your arm around them in brotherhood, that's the next answer.
Yeah, I don't know how many of you guys have any experience with youth ministry. When Greg and I were texting about the topic tonight, that prompt kind of came up in my heart. And I was not only in youth ministry as a youth pastor for 8 years, but I attended youth ministry. Man, and we don't grow out of that stuff, man. The guy the kid who sneaks in the back of the room after the second worship song and tries to slip in and just sit in the back and go unnoticed and then run out as soon as service is over. We don't grow out of that stuff. We don't. We can be 35, 45 years old, 55 years old, and we all desire to be seen and be known, but man, it is hard to make ourselves be seen and be known, right? And so as I was thinking about that, I used to tell my leaders two things. I said, my only expectation for you, we met on Wednesday night. My only expectation for you guys is that every student in this room has at least one conversation with a leader. Not that you, Greg, have a leader with every conversation, every student, but although if Greg was one of my youth leaders, I think I could count on that because he's really good at that. But I wanted every student to have a conversation. I wanted to see a connection. And again, I know we're not youth ministry and it's a different type of environment, but I think the principle applies. You see a guy who shows up, man, it is the most courageous thing that he's done probably that week, maybe that month, to show up to your group. Even if he shows up every week, it's the most courageous thing that he's done. Make sure you see that. And then the last thing that I just think of youth ministry real quick is, man, fun. You talk about keeping a guy engaged. Talk about wanting to fight isolation, Greg. I think of fun. And it's not just because I'm one of the youngest guys on the team. And I just fun. Adventure is how we say it, right? Adventure, right. Relational. And so fun is not the point, but I always say it's the multiplier. It multiplies connections. It multiplies retention. It multiplies everything. Fun, adventure. And Greg is so great at offering ideas that men love. And we talk about it all the time. Almost every Recalibrate, we talk about ideas. But we cannot, and there's a reason for that, right, Greg? There's a reason why adventure and intentionality keeps coming up. There's a reason why maybe it's not about the book and the resource as much as it is the relationship. That's why those things keep coming up, right? What do you think?
That's exactly right. No, I think so, because, we say all the time that it's not about the book,
Yeah.
Because we want to make the point that it really is about relationship with God and relationship with each other. Let me boil it down here for a little bit, Josh, as we're kind of moving towards the end of this video. For you guys. Hey guys, just listen. This idea of LOVE is not something that most guys love to talk about. Josh, did you grow up as a man thinking that you'd be in men's ministry talking about LOVE? Probably not. No. I don't know about y'all, but most of the people that I've talked to for years about men's ministry, they talk about WORK.
Or right? DO. What are we going to do? Yeah.
What are we going to do? It's about doing. It's not about being. And so, as you would expect, Gregory loves sailors to say that it might be about love. You want to keep men engaged? Love them. And love them well. Love them in whatever place they're in. Listen. Give them a good shoulder hug or front on hug. Be still with them. Quiet. Listen. Have a cigar. Take a walk. Do a board game. Maybe a puzzle. Watch a movie. Do life, right, Josh? You wanna see somebody's heart change. You want to see them stay engaged. Here's what it really boils down to. You stay engaged with them. And we might lose a few. It's hard to say, but we might. We've had some guys walk away. And we've had some guys that get taken out by the enemy. Yeah, that's good, Tony. Time, Time, spending time together.
Yeah.
So important. What about you, Josh? What do you think about that, buddy? Have I got make a little bit of sense?
I think it makes total sense, man. And it just is so true. Guys, I'm telling you, you guys know this. I don't have to tell you anything, you know it. Because you are one and you're already walking side by side with so many men in your life. But again, I just remember my time as a youth pastor, and it was the students. We could have hundreds of students show up on Wednesday night, but it was the students who were around my dinner table on Tuesday, right? It was the students who I was on the sideline of their game on Friday. Those are the ones that everything I was hopeful to teach them, that's the ones that I saw their hearts come alive and change. Those are the ones that I got invited to officiate their wedding, be at the hospital when their first child was born. Like that's where, man, like I'd take that any day of the week, because that's where the gold is, right? That's where you get invited into some of those moments, then you know you've made a lifelong connection. That's where the good stuff is, right, Greg? That's where the story is, and knowing and being known. And man, then all the things we want, the life change, the accountability, the discipline, that's where all that stuff comes from. We shouldn't lead with that. It should be the fruit of time, LOVE, spelled TIME. Yeah, man, like you're dead on, man. Dead on.
Well, men, we've loved being with you guys tonight. Folks that are on YouTube, we've loved being with you. I hope this has encouraged everyone. And, you can do this. Yeah. People can stay engaged. You can stay engaged in the battle. Back to the time thing, spend time with God. I love our friend Tom Benner, who's on our team, Josh. Every morning he gets up and he has his time with God in his chair. He sleeps through a little bit of it. He tells us this. But he puts his earphones on. He listens to worship music. He does some of his centering prayer and his time with God, and God shows up. And I try my best to get my time in too. I try my best to do that in the mornings. But that time with God makes so much of a difference, in time with each other. So men, you can do it. If we have some ladies going to watch this too, let me tell you, if you're creating groups for small groups for ladies, you can do it too. Just love each other and love each other well.